it doesn't matter which orthopedic book you're using, most reference ranges are going to be within 5 degrees. Here, this reference book for orthopedics says that you should have 45 degrees of internal rotation and 45 degrees of external rotation of the hip. That's a 90-degree window. So one of the things that we're always asking is, how am I moving, and do I have access to my native ranges? Because if I don't, that's going to minimize my number of movement choices or my movement solutions to a specific problem. So where we get caught up on the interwebs, of course, is the squat. It's all about the squat, 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 squat. You're so unique. You've gone to a special place. You had an x-ray done of your hip. But one of the things we want to make sure is that, do I in fact have a snowflake hip? Or am I falling prey to the zombie thirst trap, right? A zombie argument, Lisa, you're so special. And it's a thirst trap because I'm going to post about it because everyone's going to talk about their special hips. So here's the deal. Normative range. And again, this book says that at 90 degrees, where that leg is straight up and down, without any special tests, Leisha should have 45 degrees of external rotation. You can see she's a little shy. I can just do this in my head. There's straight up and down 90. 45 would be half of that, so she's a little shy. But we can also look at her internal rotation. And you'll notice that her total rotation window, again, there is 90. Then she's about, let's say 30. We can measure it, but I'm not getting paid by insurance, so I don't need to measure it, right? It's 1 or 0. And what we find is that Lisa doesn't have a lot of rotation window. Now, for the average athlete, it's probably fine. This internal rotation specifically is pretty rocking for an athletic population. But remember that the rotation window is 90 degrees, and here we have maybe 70 degrees. Let's be honest, 60 degrees. 61 degrees. So one of the things we can start to say is, hey, if I'm going to try to get to the bottom of, do I have an anteverted or retroverted hip where I really have congenital sort of dysplasia or some aspect going on, how would I know? Well, we know that you should have 130 to 140 degrees of hip flexion, and we should have, I should be able to press that without feeling like I'm running into a wall. And here, as I rotate, as I get to the end here, it still is springy. That's still moving, and I can easily push her to that range. In fact, here, we still have the same thing. It firms up, but it definitely doesn't run into the wall. If we saw someone have a special hip or changes in their hip, we would come to a quick internal rotation lock. Boom, that'd be the end. Because that head and that femur rotating in the socket would run out of room and run into a wall there. But in this situation, it's really clear that we can take Lisa to full range very quickly, which means in this snapshot today, Lisa may not have full access to a range of motion for a whole bunch of reasons. She already trained. She's super stiff. She just had triplets yesterday. She jumped on a red eye. It doesn't matter. The reason is today she doesn't have immediate access to a range of motion. That's why we train. We try to restore our ranges so that we can go do sports or do whatever we're doing. Ideally, we're consistent and we can keep our range of motion relatively constant, but part of the reason we're coming to the gym is understanding that we're using the gym as a chance to restore native ranges and expose our tissues and our brains to controlling those positions. So if Lisa is missing a ton of range, she's not going to have a whole lot of choice about where she can put her foot and how she solves that problem. What you'll see is she'll start to solve this problem by doing a bunch of weird origami with her leg, because that keeps her in a little bit more weird range. She's now leveraging her tibia on her femur and her ankle to solve a movement problem that should be solved by having access to these cardinal ranges and her ability to create stability and rotation to give her a joint that actually can take force and not kind of go around the problem. So if you're trying to untangle your crazy hipness, let's make sure that your friend can bring your knee up to your chest and be like, bro, that is not it. Bro, you're so stiff. Again, I would say 45 degrees of external rotation, 30 degrees of internal rotation, but a total rotation window of at least 70 degrees, some internal rotation, and then that knee should come to your chest. And if you can't do those things and they're springy and not just bone on bone, chances are you have hidden capacity.